Welcome in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertovant. Carlene is here in building. It is Thursday. We also have meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees because say it ain't snow. Brittany.
I think people wanted to say it is snow, Nick. I think that's the opposite.
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
Y'all are corny.
I love what
Y'all are corny.
I know. I love what you. No, I really love what you did there. But think about all the people who are so excited about snow.
Like Carlene.
It's not Nick
Oh,
or I.
Well,
Sorry. Here's the thing. I'm a little over it. I'm a little over the cold.
here's the thing.
It's just so
Classically in the
cold.
Carolinas, we all know this. People do want it to snow more often than not. The majority of people, because one, you don't want it to ice, and two, they want to be able to play in it.
Sure. For like a frivolous afternoon, but then
Yeah, which is kind of
Yeah.
what it's going to be like this
Great.
weekend. It's just, unfortunately, I think, like you said, on the tail end of an ice storm,
Yes.
that people
Right.
are already annoyed
Right.
because of the roadways being slick, and so the kids have been out of school or remote or whatever the case is. So yes, it's going to have some impact, but at least the shining light here is that there's no chance that this is falling as ice. It will be snow across the board. Now, that doesn't mean that travel couldn't be a bit hazardous at times on Saturday, but it's not going to be anywhere like what we had this past weekend. So first thing I want to start with is Futurecast. Let's talk about when this is expected to move in. It shifted a little bit later, so the majority of this is falling on Saturday. I do want folks to be aware of that. So Friday is good, other than the fact that it is going to be bitterly cold. Again, we know that it's been bitterly cold pretty much all week, and while again I know that that cold is not ideal for a lot of people, it is the reason why the confidence is so high that this is snow. Snow, snow, snow. It's like normally we don't want to say that word, but now it's like I feel like I'm almost shouting it from the rooftops because I'm just glad that we're not going to have another situation with ice. So Friday, clouded over, cold air damming is set up. Temperatures again are in the 30s. We start to see snow in the mountains right around, I would say, rush hour time Friday afternoon, but this is not going to arrive in the Charlotte area until much later on in the evening. So here we are at 11 o'clock, starting to creep into portions of the foothills. But again, this moisture is not wrapping around and kind of shifting things from our south and west into the metro until Saturday morning. So it is Saturday that is the majority of this impact. Again, yes, it's going to be fun. Please make sure you're bundled up. We don't oftentimes see a significant risk for hypothermia or frostbite here in the Carolinas, specifically here in Charlotte. Oftentimes our risk is really centered on the mountains, but this prolonged cold air plus the gusty winds that we'll see on Saturday could allow for some additional issues. So please make sure, whether it's you, your kids, your pets, we have coats on, gloves. Mainly the extremities need to make sure that they have extra layers. You can always take off, right, if you get hot, but you need to make sure you have stuff on in order to take off. Please don't be walking outside in shorts and a tank top and no gloves or mittens. So Saturday, again, pretty much off and on for the majority of the day. There will be times that we'll see what we call a burst of snow. And the question mark, at least so far when it comes to a forecast standpoint, is when that exact burst is going to happen and who's going to see it. It's pretty likely that it could be across the Piedmont. But what you'll notice when you look at our first snowfall totals map is the reason why we have a pretty big range is that where exactly that burst sets up, similar to what you see with those big downpours during, a summer afternoon or downpours in the heaviest band of a tropical storm. It's virtually impossible to forecast where that band is going to set up essentially until the day of, where you see the moisture set up. Now behind this, again, we are going to be bitterly cold. People need to make sure that they're keeping a close eye on pets, plants, kids, neighbors, the elderly, young children, whoever. I also want to remind people that with the bitterly cold air on the backside, we see a prolonged cold snap that we haven't seen in potentially years here in Charlotte. I haven't done the exact math, but I know in the 5 years I've lived here, it has not been this cold for this long period of time. And so that will add an extra risk to your pipes and pipes bursting, the drips, the cabinets open, all the things we've been saying. It's the hazardous travel Saturday and then the prolonged cold after that are our two biggest impacts here in Charlotte. We did have a winter storm watch that was issued today for the weekend. I did a mobile short on this yesterday, so you might have already seen it on WCNC Plus or over on our website, our mobile app, Instagram. But a winter storm watch goes into effect either between essentially 24 to 48 hours before an event. But confidence has to be at least 50% or higher for at least 3 inches of sleet or snow. So what this is telling you is that our forecasters, yes, because we put out our first snow map this morning, but also the National Weather Service is confident at this point that we have at least 50% confidence that all of our 22 local counties are at least seeing 3 inches of snow this weekend. When that confidence goes up to 80%, we will get upgraded to a winter storm warning. So just be aware of that. Again, I know we've talked a little bit about this, but hazardous travel is still going to be possible. Saturday, mainly because the winds are going to be gusty, which will cause blowing snow. Right now, I'm not convinced that we'll actually have blizzard conditions here inland portions of the Carolinas, but it is very likely, if you guys remember the wind gusts that we were looking at yesterday near the coast, 60 to 70 miles an hour. Those areas likely, Outer Banks, over toward the Norfolk area and east, will likely see blizzard conditions. Remember, blizzard is nothing about how much snow there is. It's about the snow mixed in with the wind. And specifically in this scenario, we have very dry, fluffy snow, which actually is easier to blow around because it's essentially very light versus heavy snow that we will sometimes have when the atmospheric conditions are a little bit different. These are kind of our latest total ranges for the Charlotte area based on our different kinds of models. So I think sometimes it's nice to see that. Chris made this awesome graphic earlier, which I think was really cool. So he shows the probability from our model data based on most recent. 0.1, 100%, which means, again, we're getting something. This is not going to be a trace. Right now, there's 95 to 98 probability that we have 1 to 2. Cool. 79% to, let's say, 80%, about 4 inches, and it goes down a lot once you get closer to 5 and 6. So again, this is why our forecast is very confident right now of about 2 to 5. And again, this will likely change. I know that you guys know this because we say it every single time. When it comes to snowfall forecasting here in the Carolinas, it is much easier to ramp up than ramp back. If I had told you on Monday that we were getting 20 inches of snow, which is what some of the weather apps were saying, and then I pull back and I say 2 to 5, all you guys remember is the 20 inches. So that's, again, why we oftentimes will start on the lower side based on what our forecast probability is, and then we will adjust and increase or even kind of filter things, and thin them up as we go. One important thing to note too about this particular system this weekend is that we will start off with a lot of dry air. So some of the initial bands will likely not reach the ground. And so again, those are some of those question marks that we're still working out as to how much dry air there will be, which is why, again, you see a big range. I think the positive thing here is, I already mentioned this once, but that this is snow instead of ice. Mm-hmm. And 2, that we know we're getting snow, and we know we're at least going to have, I think at this point, you saw the percentages, 1 to 2 is like 100%, 98%. And I think people are a little bit sick, honestly, of us saying no snow. And so this, for the snow lovers, will be really cool. This is a video. I'll play it very shortly. This is from January 17, 2018. This is the last time that Charlotte had up to as much snow as we could see this weekend.
Wow.
The last time that we had anything close to what the forecast is currently, yes, you see that was 8 years ago. And I know you might be thinking what I thought. 2018 was 8 years ago? Well, it certainly was. So kind of hard to believe. So again, our biggest impacts are going to be on Saturday. Hazardous travel, snow, of course. Those are the 2 big things. And then it's on the backside, the cold. We won't really have a big power outage risk here on the backside. The only thing when it comes to power outages are the gusty winds. But again, the pipes, the potential for freezing, think about how prolonged this cold snap has already been and how long it could be. So that will be something that we'll keep a very, very close eye on. So if you were someone last weekend who didn't, wrap the insulation or wrap towels and things around your pipes, or didn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Drip, things of that nature, this weekend would be a good time to go ahead and do that, or even maybe leading up to the event, just to, again, make sure you are protecting those things. And if you already did, amazing. You don't have to do it again. As we've talked about a little bit, of course, it's the dry air and moisture, how much is going to happen, how much will result in how much snow we could have. We have a pretty rare, what's called a high snow to water ratio, which is, again, one of the reasons why we're expecting more fluffy snow versus the heavy, snow that oftentimes cuts down on totals. So I feel like I've said this a million times, but this is really a very rare setup that for the snow lovers out there, I know it's not Nick and Carlene, but they're out there because, trust me, we hear you. I don't even know if I'd call them the silent minority. I think they're the very loud majority. But either way, we hear you.
Some people love it, just not this company.
Yeah, and I think that, listen, when it comes to the impacts that we've already had from last weekend, it's like the fact that it's not going to be 5 days or something like that. I mean, my grandparents live in Richmond. I have family in Boston, and so, you see all of those pictures of those areas that do see snow a lot, where it's like multiple feet, and I think you just have to be thankful that while there is a higher end forecast possibility that we could have more than 2 to 5, it's not going to be multiple feet of snow to where I'm holding both of your hands and we're jumping off the roof of WCNC Charlotte to jump in the fluffy snow, because that does happen up north.
Okay.
No.
It does happen up north.
Oh, no, I lived in Buffalo for 3 years.
Carly knows.
It was something.
Yeah.
I did my time, and now I'm here.
Okay, so really quick, wind gusts. Again, Saturday afternoon, 25 to 30. That's what's going to allow for the snow to blow. That will linger into Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually do have a winter weather advisory and or a wind advisory up in the mountains due to the wind on the backside. This is our current snow and sleet cover that we still have here locally. Still a lot on the ground, as we know, in the mountains specifically. Remember, again, this is snow and sleet. So what we saw here in the Charlotte area was sleet and ice. I'm still seeing stuff all over social media talking about last weekend's snowstorm. Just a reminder, guys, that we did have some snow mixing in up toward the mountains and foothills, but all of what we had here in Charlotte was sleet. I know that it looked like snow, but it was not. If you look closely, they were tiny little ice pellets. I digress. So again, this is going to be on top of all of those things. Now, I did have somebody ask me yesterday, well, should I be going skiing this weekend in the mountains? Oh my gosh, they're going to get snow. Yeah, they're getting snow just like we are. However, just remember, they're more used to something of this nature. And so just be careful, because I don't want anybody going up with the intention of like, oh my gosh, big snowstorm, one, and then the residents are like, 6 inches. We get this all the time.
Right.
And then 2, that then they feel like they missed the snow that we had in Charlotte. And when it comes to the mountains specifically, they're going to kind of see a 2 run with this system, because they see the first snow that we get on Friday and kind of see it wrap around, and then they'll have that classic northwest flow on the backside. So their totals are a little bit higher than some of the Charlotte area, but it's essentially because they kind of have a 1-2 punch with this system. So again, I think that we've heard this word many a times over the last few weeks, but we're keeping folks weather impact alert because of the snow on Saturday, and again, the hazardous travel, and then the cold air that lingers into Sunday, Monday. I can confidently say that while I don't think next week will be warm, but it will be warmer once we get to Tuesday, Wednesday. I never thought, being someone who, yes, grew up in the South, but grew up in Atlanta and lived a lot of my life in Florida, that I would be thrilled to see a high temperature of 46 degrees. But I cannot wait.
Spring break.
Woo! Carlene's get a split splash.
I do have a question. So, and I've gotten this question. So Monday, or I guess Sunday afternoon, evening into Monday, will we start seeing roads more clear, some of the stuff kind of melting away?
Yes and no.
Ish? Okay.
So I think it'll be similar to what we had Monday,
Okay.
because our biggest impact, of course, last week was Sunday, which is why Monday
It cleared
started
out
to see
fast on
melting.
Monday, this past Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, thanks to the sun. Helps.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so because this is really thin and fluffy, it should see melting, but Sunday will not be as warm as Monday was.
Okay,
and I know
okay.
that seems like, okay, well, Monday was still really cold, but
Yeah.
the high was right around 38,
Yeah.
whereas Sunday is going to be 33. So even that 5-degree difference, the closer you are to freezing, the harder it is
Yeah.
going to be to melt. And even though that travel on Saturday is going to be hazardous because of the snow and the blowing snow, just like this week, a lot of days next week, we will be talking about black ice and the refreeze. So I know that this is so hard. It's easy for me to say as the meteorologist who doesn't have to deal with this directly, but please have some grace, for the decision makers across the area, when it comes
Right.
to school or work or whatever that may be. I cannot even put myself in the situation
Been a
where
tough couple
where
weeks.
it's so frustrating. I mean, you guys know, obviously I'm at the gym all the time, and I've had teachers, parents be like, we totally understand it's unsafe, but it's just hard with the kids at home, and parents having to call out of work, because they have to stay at home. But just remember that the decisions that are made are not to frustrate, because the weather is still expected to be dangerous. And we say this all the time, I know, on this show and on our regular newscasts, but I would say 9 times out of 10, it's risk for like buses, whether it's the gusty winds or the
Right.
ice. So just I
wanna
know,
be
again,
safe.
I know it's easier for me to say. It's like when someone's giving you advice and you're like, easy for you to say, and I totally get it. But it will be for safety reasons. It's not because they just like are trying to
We just want
put
to
you
keep you
out.
safe.
Exactly.
We want to keep you safe. And look, we give you the scenarios, but obviously we would love for. I mean, people. That's the thing about snow. I don't want to say we would love not to see snow because people
Some
want to
people
see
love
snow.
it.
Yeah.
But we'd rather give you like the high end or you know a good prediction,
Yeah.
just so you're not caught off guard. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
and that's what I was trying to explain to people because your DMs, my DMs. Oh God, I was like, I don't even forecast the weather.
Yes, you
Yeah.
cannot imagine, Nicholas. You
Yeah.
cannot imagine.
Yeah.
And I think it's also too, I would love to give you this weekend and not last weekend. Because I think
Yeah.
people right now, I said this in my mobile short yesterday, I think we have a little bit of like that winter weather fatigue where we're just over it, kind of like when we have back-to-back storms, over hurricane season. But this one has, yes, still some negatives, but there are some more positives, I would say, compared to last week. The
Yeah.
best thing as a forecaster, yes, it's annoying that it happened the weekend after an ice storm. I think we can all agree it's annoying.
Yeah.
It is annoying,
Yeah,
the
it's
timing.
annoying. It's annoying.
But at least it is not going to be a big ice risk. If we had this same exact scenario and we had warm air, it could be, I don't want to assign a number to it, but I think at least 3 times worse than what last weekend was if we had that warm air. Because think of all the moisture that we have. I mean, there's some spots along the coast that could see a foot of snow.
Yeah.
And we will be talking to Sam Walker, our good friend with Sam Walker OBX News.
Yeah, about 45 minutes from now.
And we talked
Yeah.
about that yesterday too. I was actually watching Brad's vlog, of course, and I had the Weather Channel in the background when I was getting ready for work this morning. But it's there. It's snow, yeah, but it's the coastal flooding, the beach
Yeah.
erosion, all the normal things that they see with big low pressure. So for the coast and like even up toward New England, we're in a classic nor'easter setup. It just so happens that here in Charlotte, we are again getting the benefit. I know it's been a terrible week of cold, but we have the benefit of it being cold and having 100% confidence that this is not going to be ice, which is again like the one thing I want people to understand at home is that we are so thankful for that because it could be so much worse.
Like Brad said, you want to see the snow. You don't want to see the ice and
Yeah.
sleet. And you said that
yeah,
too.
and you
as
hear
well,
it all
yeah.
the time too. People are like, if it's this cold, it might as well be snowing. Well,
There
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.